about the work I'm doing. So before I get into green space and the work that we're doing there, I want to mention some other work that I'm working on. So later on in September, the council is going to be voting on my package of legislation to create universal child care in the city of New York. This is incredibly we are going to be the first city in the nation to create universal child care. I have 5 bills, and so we're going to be voting on them, we believe, probably the end of September. I will let the club know because I'm going to do a huge rally in front of City Hall. Would love you all to come. And I'm happy to answer questions about it. I can speak for hours about what these bills do, but suffice it to say, it is going to put us in an unbelievably exciting position to subsidize child care for those who really need that. And right now, the average cost of child care is $21,000 a year in the city of New York. It's unconscionable, inexcusable, unacceptable.
I hear you.
So we're going to change that. You can't hear me?
You lost volume there.
Well, I'm not speaking with the mic. Can you hear me?
That's better, yeah.
That's better. Okay, I'll make sure to project a little bit louder. Let me know if you can't hear me. So that's one thing I'm working on. Second thing that I'm very focused on, I'm the chair of the Small Business Committee. So I'm working on a number of things there. I have a bill that's being voted on later this month to consolidate every city agency permit into one website, one app, a one-stop shop bill. So we're going to be voting on that at the end of September. I had a bill that was voted on that we just enacted a couple weeks ago to create the first Office of Sexual and Reproductive Health in the city of New York that is going to provide abortion access to those in need, as well as study health disparities around the city, because as we all know, healthcare, there are incredible disparities and we need to be addressing them. So that's a little bit of non-climate, but I just wanted to mention some of the few things that we're working on. So on climate, a couple different things. So first of all, we as a district ranked 47th out of 51 in the council district, meaning we have one of the lowest amounts of open space. It is shocking when you really think about it. We're one of the densest districts, and yet we have one of the lowest amounts of open space, so we need to be very creative. A couple months ago, I created a new community garden at Lexington Houses at NYC there, so that is great because we were basically creating the new community garden for that community. A couple other things. I have a bill, and a number of you at Four Freedoms were instrumental in making this happen. When we had the lot on the east side that was vacant, and we did an event in front of there, and I know Kim was there and many others, I did introduce a bill into the council that would say when you have a vacant lot that's been derelict for years and years and that has tons of violations, we're going to be able to turn that into community garden. And we're going to be able to get funding from the Parks Department, from Grow NYC, and if we work with local community organizations, they'll help to create that garden. So that bill I've introduced, I'm working on it, and I think it will be incredibly exciting to move that forward. In addition, today I introduced a bill, and I'm just going to read this because it's a little bit technical, so I'm sorry that I'm reading this, but it increases penalties for commercial vehicles that are idling, but specifically what it does is it aligns our fines with other major cities like Washington, D.C. So it increases the current standard. Right now it's $350 fine for commercial vehicles for idling. That is like not enough. So my bill brings it up to $2,000. This is very big. Really big for a fine. I'm very excited about this.
Does that include
and for
ambulances?
second-time offender, it would be $4,000. So we're going to hit them where it hurts. We're not going to accept what is happening with these trucks idling all over our neighborhood. And I think our neighborhood in particular is basically bearing the brunt of this. So I wanted to mention that I'm doing that. On parks and other issues, I am on the Parks Committee. We have, we fixed APAC lawn, so that has been a big problem. We got it resodded, so the community is able to use that, so that's something that I wanted to mention as well. And we also, I got $1 million for John Jay Park, so we're doing walkway pavings. I got $4 million for the creation of a comfort station in Rupert Park. This is a big deal. Like, it is so hard to get a comfort station built in a park, so to get the $4 million, and I do want to say, and I'm sorry, I should open with this, is in terms of the money being brought back to the district, I brought $21 million back to this district, which is last year, we only got a couple million. So I'm just being honest, like 21 million, this is huge. So we got over $5 million million for PS290. We are building a rooftop playground for them. They had no area to play in. It's unbelievably shocking to have any school in New York City that has no dedicated gymnasium. 290 was one of the few schools that did not have a dedicated gym. Now they will. They're going to have this outdoor play space. So that's part of the 21 million. And then also, in addition on parks, 300,000 to fix the pavers on Carl Schurz. So those are some of the things that I'm doing, having to do with greenery, on climate. I'm open to any ideas. I'm on both the Parks Committee and the Environmental Committee. So if there are ideas that you want me to pursue, please, come to us right away. Let us know. I would love to hear about them. So I'll pause there because I've said a lot and open it up to any questions that you might have. Craig, hi.
This may be too soon, but what do you think your district will look like?
Redistricting. Okay. So the new maps are coming out September 22nd. All right. So then the council votes on them. We either vote them up or down. If we vote them up, those are the new maps. If we vote them down, then the commission has to go back to the drawing board, do a new set of maps, but that's it. We have no ability after that to vote again on them. So, as you probably know, I came out strongly against the maps because it takes a huge chunk, it takes Roosevelt Island, where we're obviously right now, it takes a huge chunk of the east side and puts it in Queens. And so I heard from many of you, hundreds and hundreds of people contacted our office, and based on the feedback I got, we did that. And let me also take a moment to acknowledge my colleague who's here, Assemblymember Rebecca Seawright. Where will the maps be? We don't know. I mean, one of the issues, and I used to be a redistricting commissioner in 2002, so I have that perspective, but it's hard. I mean, the city has grown by over 600,000. Our district had to shed, so no matter what, the district lines are changing. There's no scenario where we can keep our lines static. We have to lose. So some part of the district we have to lose, and that's just a fact. Hi, Todd. Yes.
Hi. We live next door to what was the Trump House, 68 and 69. They have what was considered a green space, but it's been closed because they're doing some sort of renovation or building. Is there a time frame? Because I think it's been closed for years. Yeah. Is there some sort of...
Yeah, we can look into that, and obviously I'm going to take a note of that. We'll look into that and see when they start to close and what the rules are around that. We have to look at that.
Okay, because it's been a long time.
Sure.
Scaffolding and then it's all closed. Nobody can use it.
Happy to. Hi, Erica.
Hi, Councilmember. You mentioned a bill that would allow, that you introduced that would allow us to take empty vacant lots and turn them into community gardens. What can we do to help you to get that through committee and onto the floor?
Thank you.
Wait, I didn't hear.
I appreciate
Did you say
that. So Erica's question is, what can the club do to try to help me get this bill that I have that would take these vacant lots and help turn them into community gardens? So I'll talk a little bit about that. Thank you for that question. So specifically, legally, we can't force a developer to create a community garden on a private lot. Like, we can't interfere with a private contractual property right. However, what my bill does is it says if the land is vacant, if there are violations, all of that kind of stuff, or even if there aren't violations and it's just vacant, we want the Parks Department to create a program which would basically provide the sod, the materials, everything that Grow NYC does, and that we would partner with local community groups. So it would be helpful when we have a hearing for you all to turn out. I mean, the more people who turn out, it's not calendared yet for a hearing in the Parks Committee, but as soon as it does, that would be really helpful. Hi, Rick.
Hi. When you just acknowledged that some part of the district will be lost,
Yes.
how does it affect Roosevelt Island? Is Roosevelt Island the most likely
Well,
geographic entity to be lost?
We don't know. I mean, there's no likely scenario where it's going to be this part or that part. And it's like, I don't want to lose any part of my district. I love the district as it is. Whether Roosevelt Island will stay in the district or not, again, we don't know. Roosevelt Island has a larger population than the amount that we need to shed. So, by taking Roosevelt Island, there's so many other ways that they can redraw these lines where they would take the population that we have to lose without Roosevelt Island being taken out.
What is the population of Roosevelt Island? Is it over 10,000 now?
It's over 10,000. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, can you all talk a little bit louder to the
Oh,
folks
sorry.
here?
So Rick was asking a question about Roosevelt Island and will it stay in the district or not? We don't know. On the 22nd, we will see what happens. But Roosevelt Island's population is significantly larger than the amount that I would need to lose. So, you know, there's many other ways that they could redraw these lines.
Thanks.
And you know the census.
Yes. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi. So this question is about bike lanes. I saw Unity Powers put out a great statement about getting bike lanes added to this recent horrible accident. And Community Board A has been working on this as well, lots of new bike lanes in the area. Could you speak to that a little? Is there any way that we as well can help speed that process up?
I think it would be great for you to come to the CBA, you know, as often as they're discussing it, because that's been, you know, one of the challenges is at Community Board 8, it's been pretty divided. You know, there are people who, okay, we want bike lanes, and then there are others who've been fervently on the other side. So Keith and I came out in favor of like, look, there have to be these cross-town bike lanes. We have to create more protected bike lanes. And the argument that we're trying to make is it protects pedestrians, it protects cyclists, it protects car drivers, it protects everyone if we have this. So yes, the more that we can, you know, be speaking about this at CB8 would be very, very helpful. Very helpful. And maybe the club, if they haven't already, wants to do a letter to DOT about it.
Yeah, that's a great
I think that would be very helpful. Yes.
Councilwoman, run this by Rebecca Seawright staff, Ms. Goodman staff, Alan Malone staff, about Hound Labs. It's a small technology company in California. I run it by Kim, and I run it by numerous people before me. When marijuana legalized in March of 2021, shortly thereafter, the Department of Labor issued, you know, a decree or a fiat saying that, you know, drug testing can be no more. The exception is jobs that are safety sensitive, or jobs covered by the Drug-Free Workplace Act, which is federal. The Hound Labs invented a drug test for marijuana. It will only show positive for as long as you're wasted. You get stoned Saturday night, you sleep it off Sunday morning, you're tested by Hound Labs Sunday afternoon, you're negative. I believe the Drug-Free Workplace Act does not say how you have to drug test. It just says you have to drug test. Ditto for jobs that are safety sensitive. I noticed the fire department, for example, is quit testing for marijuana. What could you do to advance substituting testing for marijuana with urine with the Hound Lab test?
Okay, I'm happy to
This
look
could-
at.
And, you know, one of my biggest hopes is that the Hound Labs could severely hurt the bottom line of the urine testing industry.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I was not aware.
Well, can you Google Hound Labs?
Yeah, I'm
Hound
happy to do
Labs.
that. I'm happy to talk to family members. see
I'll
where
talk to
they
your staff about
We
it.
will look together and see. Thank you for raising that.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff.
I feel.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you speak up now? Because I can't.
Yeah, I can speak up.
Yeah.
No,
I can't hear you.
I don't need a mic. Walkers. We are just put upon on every side. I mean, I've gone to CBA meetings for the last 10 years, listened to, you know, transportation alternatives, and all about the bikes. I'm scared to cross the street. I'm petrified to cross the street. Tonight, I was crossing First Avenue to come here. I'm 3/4 way to cross. 3 e-bikes, 2 speedo bikes, and 6 city bikes sit right through the red light. They don't care. I think we had too much bikes and not enough bike regulation. I really fear that bike lanes, on First Avenue, that's what they're not in the bike lanes, they're never in bike lanes, they're in the traffic lanes, and I think it's dangerous to walk across the street. And I really think we need to consider, you know, the Upper East Side and Roosevelt Island within that. It's the oldest population in the country, in the villages, got more senior citizens crossing the street. It's a danger. I'd like to have that looked at.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. I hear you loud and clear. What I didn't mention in my report report is I've been working on these rapid delivery companies, the dark stores, that have proliferated not only in our neighborhood, but all over the city. And it relates to the issue you're talking about, because these rapid delivery, there are hundreds of them throughout the city. They're making claims that they're going to guarantee your food delivery in 15 minutes, which causes the delivery workers to speed. It's causing the delivery workers to go the wrong way down the bike lane. So my 4-year-old daughter and I were walking down the street 3 months ago, and she was almost hit by one of these. So that's what I got incensed about this. But it's happened, so I have a bill that would actually regulate the dark stores, and we've gotten some of them, like GoPuff, to get rid of the 15-minute claim, as I wrote. But I hear you, it's a much broader problem than that.
E-bikes were legal until COVID.
Right.
And now they're.
Right, so we have been speaking, I'm talking to a lot of colleagues about it, because your complaint is a common one. We're hearing it from people all across the city, and so we've got to figure out how we can make the streets safe for everyone. They're pedestrians, cyclists, drivers, it's everyone. And so I understand, I hear you loud and clear. I see it every day. Yes.
So I have one question. Up until 2018, New York City published the statistics for traffic safety. Like for instance, usually in a year you would have between 200 and 300 fatalities caused by cars, and let's say usually between 0 and 1 fatalities caused by bikes, and maybe like 60 injuries caused by bikes, and I don't know, maybe another 600-700 injuries caused by cars. But in 2019, they didn't publish that data, and then they stopped, and they haven't published it since. Is there any time that's going to come back? Because it's really leaving a space open for people to just say things in the bike community, because we don't have hard numbers anymore. Because we know for a fact when a bike lane enters a street, it becomes significantly safer.
Right. So I can tell you, I'm happy to look at that. Our district has one of the highest amount of fatalities, actually has the highest amount in Manhattan. So that data is still there. We pull it, we work with the 19th precinct to get that data. So on the fatality side, we do have the highest amount. What you're talking about is like the specifics about, the accident. We will follow up on that and see. And if the data is not, as transparent as it should be, I'm happy to then, write a letter to DOT demanding it.
Yeah, they stopped releasing it in 2019. It was supposed to be part of Vision Zero.
Okay, so we'll look at that, and thank you for flagging that. I think that's a super important issue. Thank you.
Hi, Julie, it's Madeline. Just to bring to everyone's attention, why is it that they don't have licenses, and they're not required to wear helmets, and they're not required to wear safety gear at night, and they have no lights? Why do we have to put up with that when we, as people who are pedestrians, expect that the traffic lights will work and that we can cross at the right time? And cars have to be licensed, drivers have to be licensed, and these are unlicensed people.
Right, and this has been an ongoing debate that I've heard from many people about the licensing. So I know many people have brought it up, and obviously it hasn't happened. We have to do something to focus on pedestrian safety.
Well, we need bike safety schools, and people need to get a certificate from them and licensing. Because they're all going the wrong way, they don't understand, and they could be in Spanish, so that or Chinese, we can keep up with people's nationalities so that they don't feel that they're being discriminated against.
Julie, can you repeat? Yeah.
We need to have licenses for people who are on bicycles, because if they're not licensed, if they're not wearing helmets, if they're not wearing safety gear, if they don't have headlights, we're all at risk. I am someone who was hit by a bicycle 40 years ago, and I have 2 hips replaced and 1 knee, and only by the grace of good doctors am I able to get along and get around. And so I'm very happy about that. I'm a complete advocate for this, because I've paid thousands and thousands of dollars a time for my health because of it.
I want to second, what everybody's saying. Like, the bike is ridiculous. There's a walk sign, and then they just zip right by.
So is there a question? Or I think I would take advantage of the council member being here and asking questions. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I think she's just reiterating the sentiment.
Yeah,
Which is
Well,
helpful to hear, helpful to hear.
Actually, there are a couple of different categories you have to put this in. You've got regular cyclists that we all know that we grew up with, majority.
Yeah.
Regular unmotorized bicycles. Then you have the ones that have some kind of a motorization, whether it's
Just a
electrical.
bigger request, because I know the council member has to go to another committee.
Okay, no, but you gotta put it into, I think, categories. You just can't put it, I think, in one big category because there are different issues with it. Then they have these little scooters and all sorts of things. It's gonna be motorized or unmotorized, is that a possibility?
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
you.
No, thank you. I'm taking all this feedback back. I assure you, it's really helpful
So
to have
I
it.
am conscious, I'm aware you have another committee.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer all the hands that are up,
It's
so
huge.
let's keep going.
Thank you for bringing that up, it's huge.
John, yes.
So I think Jonathan, I think people behind you had their hand up. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna let you moderate.
Okay,
That's perfect.
we'll go over here.
Moving on from bike lanes a little bit, is there a litigation strategy currently planned with the caucus to potentially challenge the redistricting maps, or is there?
Yeah, and that's a great question, okay? Because there's constantly, as we all know, litigation around any redistricting. We haven't seen these maps, so that's very preliminary to see. We don't know, anyone who tells you they know what's in these maps, that's not what they're right. We don't know what's in the maps. Only the commissioners know what's in the maps. So we'll see what happens. But obviously there are Department of Justice rules that have to be adhered to. There's so many standards and rules related to redistricting. So I want to wait to see that. Thank you.
So Ben, and then Jonathan, and then Kid, and then maybe we'll cut it off
Okay,
then.
okay.
And Councilor, would you mind repeating the questions so people on the Zoom
Oh,
get the
sure.
questions?
Yes.
So, Ben, ask your question concisely so the council member can repeat.
Sure. It came out today that a new development is being looked at 72nd Street. And what's being reported is that this new development, being most likely as of right, it won't require any zoning changes, it will be putting in fewer units than currently exist. And moving forward, how can we ensure that we're not losing housing while we're in the midst of such a big housing crisis?
That's a great question, Ben. This is an enormous problem. It's not only about our district, it's about the lack of affordable housing citywide and how we're going to do it. This particular development that you're speaking about is actually not in my district, it's in Keith's district because it's on the border of Second, so it's on the west side of Second, so it's in his district. However, obviously has impacts to our district. I'll be working really closely with him on it, but it's as of right, meaning we have, it takes the leverage away. Doesn't mean we're without leverage, however, even if something is as of right. When I chaired Community Road 1 downtown, for example, there was a very large as of right project and I was able to get a new school in it. So it doesn't mean that we don't have leverage. With that said, this is part of a whole trend we're seeing about developers building large luxury buildings that have very few units in them, very large floor plates with very few units and very little affordable housing. One of the things that I am really focused on is in the council, we have got to get affordable housing built. And so we have, we've had some projects come through, some have been turned down, some have been approved, but for me, I want to get affordable housing. So there'll be projects that are gonna come down the pipe and I'm gonna come back to the club and ask for the club's support if we can get a lot of affordable housing, because there are gonna be people who are like, I'm not in favor of that because it's too high. Well, you can't build affordable housing if we have, something's gotta give. I know you feel very strongly on this issue. So, and others. So I am going to need the club support because these are going to be big battles where you're going to have people who do not want any height whatsoever. But then if we have no height, we don't get any affordable housing and we're pricing people out of the city. It is not okay that the average rental price in Manhattan is $5,000 a month. That is simply not okay.
Jonathan.
I'm not sure my question should be asked what you have just said. However, to me, one of the beauties of our district is the small human scale of our neighborhoods, the variety of little stores that you get into on the street, the human scale of our neighborhood. So I would ask you, how can we protect this quality of life with these almost every other block has got a big high-rise.
I'm glad that you asked that, because let me be clear, I'm not proposing that we have high rises all over. That is absolutely not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is you have to take every single project in context. You have to look at the context. You always want to have contextual zoning. We do not want to have zoning that is out of scale with our neighborhood, where we're overrun by high rises. With that said, we have to judiciously look at some projects that are going to add some modicum of height, if we want to get any affordable housing. But we can't be approving all of them. So it has to be on a case-by-case basis. And I'm going to ask for more freedoms to provide input, because look, these debates are very, very tricky. There are people on all sides of the issue. So I'm not saying we're going to approve every single project that comes through. We're not going to do that. But we're going to negotiate hard to get the maximum amount of affordability without having too much height. That's the way to do it, quite frankly. And it's all about the negotiations, how hard and how successful you are at the negotiation.
I think Kit is going to ask the last question.
Thank you. Councilmember Menin, you mentioned at the top that you had just introduced a series of bills that would come to be a universal child care package.
And I know you care about that because we talked about it.
Yes, I do. And so I would love for you to just outline what those packages were and what we can do to help support
So
them.
my universal child care, it's 5 bills. One bill creates a structure that creates universal child care. It basically creates a new entity that would be charged with coming up with a whole structure to do it. The first thing that they would look at is creating universal child care for families that are between 300 and 400% of the poverty index. And then we make it universal. So that entity does that. The second bill is a building certification program that basically over 1,100 child care centers have closed in recent years, so we actually don't have enough child care centers. And shockingly, if you want to open up a new child care center, do you know how long you have to wait to get a criminal background check on a prospective employee? Does anyone have a guess on how long it takes to do it?
5 years.
Oh, no. The criminal background check takes, it takes a few hours to do. This is not, it's taking them up to a year. So the reason we're not getting these things built is because there's a total backlog. So this bill creates it easier for buildings to build new child care facilities in them. Another bill does grants to struggling child care providers because we have all these child care deserts. Roosevelt Island is a child care desert, by the way. It's defined as such. 2 of the other bills create an electronic database, a subsidy database. But the first bill is the most important because it mandates that within 5 years, New York City must have universal child care. Done. So this is really exciting. And we'd be the only city to do this. So it's huge. As soon as I have the logistics, I'll tell you all and hope you can come. And thank you all so much. Oh, last thing, I'm having the dreaded birthday fundraiser, yes, on October 3rd. I'd love it if you could come. I think we put flyers out. If you're able to come, I'd really appreciate it. I am running for the election, so this birthday fundraiser is my first big event, and would really appreciate any of you who